World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
Happiest Monday to you all. It is such a pleasure to be in this space. I'm always so excited, thrilled, and always willing to have these conversations. We can create the life that we want. We just have to believe, be willing to make sacrifices. The Bold Show is here all the time to really highlight that it's all possible. It may seem impossible, but the word impossible says possible. So you could achieve it, right? Just got to believe in yourself. But without further ado, I have an interesting guest this evening. She is the definition of a phenomenal woman. She is accomplished and she is here with us tonight. We're going to be having great conversations. And I want you all to soak this information in. And I want you all to feel inspired, be motivated. What we think determines what happens to us. So if we want to change our lives, we need to stretch our minds. Tonight, without further ado, I am going to welcome our guest, Dr. Ovita Williams. She's a graduate from Vassar College in 1990, from Columbia University in 1993. She received her PhD from the City University of New York Graduate Center. She is here tonight, and I am just going to allow her to really tell us all about her accomplishment. She will introduce herself because I want her to do justice and really celebrate her roses tonight. It took a lot of sacrifices to get here. It didn't happen overnight. And this is what I stress here every single time I'm on the show. Success is a journey. It's a process. Think of it. You plant a seed, you have to nurture it and watch it grow. Dr. Ovita, welcome, and I thank you so much for being a part of this show. Why don't you tell us who you are?
Oh my gosh. First of all, I am just feeling so empowered right now in this space. Your energy, your positivity, Marie. We know each other professionally, and getting to sort of see you in this element is just bringing me such joy, such joy. So thank you for that introduction. I love what you said, that success is a journey. So I hope in our conversation today, I can share something that will help the audience. And I always say also helps me, because the more I talk, the more I engage with sisters, I engage with community. I keep learning about myself, right? Don't we? Yeah. So I don't know where you want me to start at all.
Start somewhere.
Start somewhere, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you hinted a little bit in terms of who I am. I am a Black Afro-Caribbean woman. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I was born in Guyana, South America. So my family are Caribbean. My family's Caribbean. And I have to just say, I'm 54 years old a few weeks ago. And I would never have imagined where I am today and what I'm doing with my life. I am a social worker, and that's my career. I'm a mother. I am a sister. I'm a daughter. I am partnered. There's so many ways that I would, describe myself and who I am. Marie, you and I know each other in the world of social services. And I would say that very early on, I probably in high school, I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to be a counselor. I wanted to be a therapist, work with families and children. And that's exactly what I did. Going to school for a degree in sociology. I have to say that I started out wanting to be a psychologist, took a few classes in college, and decided that I wasn't doing that well, and I switched to sociology. And then I had a mentor in college who said, if you really want to still be a therapist, why don't you think about social work? And I was like, social work? What do social workers do? So I, learned a little bit, did some interning while I was in school with kids and families. I remember I interned with Planned Parenthood. I thought that was such incredible work, talking with young people about understanding their bodies, their minds, who they are, their sexuality. I did an internship at a community center in child welfare, and a lot of that really left an impression on me. And I eventually decided to go on for my social work degree. And with that, I was able to work in child welfare. My first job was at the Children's Aid Society. You know it very well. One of the New York City, one of the largest child welfare organizations. And there I just got a lot of mentorship and guidance, and went on to do my master's in social work because I figured that would be the path towards being a therapist. And did that for a little while. And I decided that child welfare is it's intense work. It's really intense work. And I was doing great work, doing therapy with kids, family therapy, play therapy. But I also realized that the work that I was doing was not eliminating and preventing the kind of ways in which poverty, racism, lack of resources impacted families and kids. And I was like, I want to work on a larger level, because working on the immediate individual level was just like not really moving families and kids to a place of, of happiness, of joy. And so I decided to leave child welfare and found a position in the district attorney's office. And so for 10 years, I worked for the Kings County DA's office as a social worker, running a unit there of social workers. And from there, my work there really kind of grounded me in what I knew I wanted to do. I wanted to work with women. I wanted to work with families impacted by intimate partner violence in particular. And I did that. And that was such a powerful experience for me, because myself, I grew up in a household where there was intimate partner violence, where there was alcoholism, where there was all of that, and there was love, and so I knew that I wanted to create an environment where women, where Black women, really were able to find help, find support, because I knew what I went through. And that's why and I think many of us go into social work or the helping field because of things that we've been through as well. And I think those experiences made me who I am, right? Made me who I am in terms of being able to, seek opportunities, push forth, make the best of any situation, is because of that and the love and care that I received from, my family and my sisters. So that I think led to a lot to where I decided to go. So I spent several years working as a social worker in the DA's office, doing really intense work. I saw the worst of the worst. If you think of SVU, the show SVU, that is the kind of work I was doing in the DA's office. It was, I was in hospitals, I was in courtrooms, working with prosecutors, defense attorneys, and helping people even understand the whole criminal legal system, which is, a nightmare. So that I think really laid the foundation for where I wanted to take my career further. So I'll stop there unless you want me to keep going.
Yeah, we could pause for a second because you said so much. We had to let it sink in, right? Good evening, Sandy, and thank you so much for being here with us. You said a few things that stood out to me, and especially April is considered as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It's really powerful. We literally just transitioned from Social Work Month as well as Women's History Month.
That's right.
And you knew from an earlier stage in your life, we talk about that journey and we talk about planting that seed, that you wanted to work with women, you wanted to work with children and families, and you wanted to make a difference, right? You also shared about your own personal journey, your experience of being exposed to domestic violence, quote unquote, right? Alcoholism. And those are real issues that our families are struggling with today.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing that with us. So as you sit here today in this space, in this environment, and you also share that you had no idea you would be at this stage in your life.
Yeah. I think there are things that I wanted to do, right? But I didn't know maybe what success would be for me, right? So I knew I wanted to make a life, if I was going to have a family in which I was able to sustain myself, right? And where I was able to be able to put food on the table, right? To have a stable job, a stable income, to pay off my student loans. So those are things that I knew. And as many of us dream, I thought I would be an author. I thought I would be, a successful therapist. All of those things, right? But you just never know how it's going to come to you. And I think the one thing that I've always tried to do is be open to that, open to the possibilities, to the doors that you might look at that door and it's ajar and you're afraid to go through it. Well, let me see what it is. Maybe there's something there that I have been resisting or closing my eyes to. So fast forward, I am an author, but not in the way that I intended it to be. Right? Like I knew I wanted to write, but I ended up writing a book with some co-authors in the field of social work, and writing my dissertation. So, but now I could probably go back to writing those novels that I had in my mind when I was 15, 16 years old. You could catch me when I was younger in high school, I would be at the Brooklyn Public Library sitting and reading books. That is what I would be doing. So it manifested, but it manifested maybe in a little different way or a different route than what I might have intended, but that's okay. So to your point, it's like, it's okay. And sometimes we shut ourselves down from those messages and those doors because we think it's not the way we thought it would be. But where could that lead us is the incredible way I think that life often speaks to us.
Awesome. And on that note, when you mentioned that sometimes we shy away from things that we think we can do.
Yeah.
And my mind went directly to that imposter syndrome where we
Mm.
hold ourselves back. Can we speak to that a bit? Because, like, you've just been this professionally colorful, successful woman. So, two questions. What do you define as success?
Mm.
Yeah, let's start with that. What do you define as success? Or
Hmm.
what's your definition of your success?
I'm gonna say that I feel at this point that I haven't stopped, that the journey continues. And that's what gives me a lot of joy and a lot of perspective, is that I could say, yes, I've arrived at this point. I have a job that I enjoy. I'm working with students. I'm a professor. I'm teaching. I got my doctorate. But I tell you, when I got my doctorate 2 years ago, I was thinking about the next thing, and whatever that next thing could be, right? It could be traveling, it could be pursuing writing, but I was like, this isn't the last thing. I only have one life to live, and how do I want to live it in the most bold, the most innovative, the most creative way that brings me joy, and also enhances not only myself but the people around me. I think about my daughter. My daughter is a young woman, young Black woman, and everything that I do, I also do for her. I do for the younger generation. So for me, success is a lot about what gives me joy, what makes me myself feel like I am meeting my most optimal place in this life that we have. And that might come with money, that might come with fame. I don't know. That might come with um, having love around you. Whatever that is, that at my core feels that I'm living my most authentic self. And I'm not just saying that. I really believe that. And I'm thinking now at this age that I am now, I'm in my 50s, I'm even more excited about what that could be. Um, and what those opportunities could be that would lead to that kind of fulfillment. And yes, now it does include being able to consult and being able to set my own hours and set my own way that I'm going to think about earning money and establishing myself. um, Comes with that kind of fulfillment as well.
Love it. Being your authentic self. And you keep using this word joy.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Hmm.
And for viewers, I want you all to understand the importance of whatever it is that you're doing. It should give you such a deep sense of satisfaction where you feel it from your tummy coming upward. It makes no sense for you to get up every single day doing stuff that you're so unhappy with because that creates more stress for you. You don't want that to happen. But you also have to be willing to take a risk. You got to be
Mm.
open. You got to be so wide open. So when these opportunities come about, and just going back to something that you said earlier about you wanted to be an author, but you're an author, but not the way you had deemed it to be. I just believe in the power of the universe, and I'm such a
Mm.
spiritual person. And I believe that God has a way of directing us on the path that we should be on. Sometimes we think that this is what we want, but I feel He intercepts and He
Mm.
take us where we need to go
Mm.
because this is your purpose. This is your journey.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think we know, but our God, He's the author, He's the finisher, and He knows exactly what He's doing. So I am so humbled and so grateful for you. And before I go to my next question, like I'm this person, I just go where the spirit leads me. Like
Yes.
you've been so accomplished. Like, how do you maintain this humility? Because you're just this sweetest person I've
Oh,
ever met. I met you in a professional capacity,
yeah,
and you
that's right.
created such a holding space for me where I could just show up and be who I am.
I love that. Oh, I love that you say that because that's exactly what I hope to do
Yeah.
is have people be just who they want to be like around me, you know. Um, do we all judge? Yes, we do. Shouldn't maybe we shouldn't, right? Judge, but we do. I think that what I try to do, and when I teach, in my classes, especially in social work, social work, we're supposed to show up and not judge, really, right? We're told to be open-minded, be introspective, be very self-aware. So we're to learn, like, all of that is probably why I went into this profession, because I'm always super processing. I'm processing so much as I walk through the world. Like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why did I look at that person that way? Why are they looking at me that way? I'm constantly checking in, even in relationships. So, like, how are you feeling? What's going on? Because I try to be in tune to that. So when I say that we all judge, I also hope that we are also being able to sit still and take in what's around us. So I'm often the person that doesn't say something right away. I'm the person in the class or the meeting or whatever, where I'm like literally sitting and observing my feelings, like what's coming up for me. Am I feeling anger? Am I feeling confusion? Am I feeling lost? Hurt? That kind of level of sitting with. And I just have to tell you, I just started meditating um, in this late part of my life because I'm finding that it's allowing me to pause a little bit more. Um, so I try to see the best in everyone. I'm also a both and thinker. And I just realized that recently. And when I say that is that I try not to be, it has to be either this or that. The either or, I think, gets us into a place of placing lots of judgment on you have to show up this way and look this way and be this way. Otherwise, I don't understand it and I don't like it and, all of that. I tend to be more of, I can try to hold the complexity of our identities, the complexity of who we are as a both and. Like, Marie, I'm just going to use an example. I know you as Marie, the person I work with, as a social worker. Now I'm learning about you as an author. And I am able to, sit with both of how you showed up and not sort of sit in, well, I'm just not going to accept that part because, that's the part I know, and I feel like that tends to be how I try to walk through the world, is inviting that kind of perspective around me so that I can understand who you are and what makes you who you are. And I hope that that's reciprocated in terms of how people then want to um, build a relationship, a friendship with me, is to understand that I'm pretty complex, and I am not going to always look the way you want me to look or be the person you want me to be. Can you hold that? Can you hold that and accept that? So I don't know if any of that makes sense, but that is how I try to be. I like to have a good time. If you ask people around me, I love to have a good time and smile and laugh and have a few drinks and party and listen to music and dance. If I'm at a party and nobody's dancing, I'm like, what? Let's, so I genuinely really like to bring people together and like to have a good time. And, you know, and that just gives me so much. It fills me up.
Mm, mm. Wow, that was powerful and deep, and the complexity of who we are. And I think that's one of the struggles that we have. It's so easy to judge. It's human nature. We are
Yes,
so
ma'am.
judgmental. We're so hard on each other, and it stops us from learning and understanding the person next to us. Because automatically, if I see you and just by the way you look at me or how you dress, I'm automatically gonna say, okay, fine. From my perspective, decide who you are before I even give you the opportunity to tell me who you are or show me who you are, right? Um, and the society that we live in, and especially as Black women, women of color, and professional women, we still have a way to go. And my hope is that, because I believe that we live in such a fractured world at this point in time, and we need to be whole once again. But it's going to take a lot of work. And like you said, are we creating these holding spaces? And it starts with self. Are we really willing to unpack those trauma? Are we willing to have those difficult conversations and be honest with ourselves? Because sitting here in this space with you, and the moment I met you, I recognized that you were a woman who found herself.
Mm,
You showed up as who you know you are, not as how, even though you're the professional and you have that title, but it wasn't about the title.
right. Right.
So, talk to me a little bit about, and that just came up. Sometimes we get so caught up with the power and the titles. I'm Dr. Williams. Therefore, this is how I should act. I'm rigid. There
So,
is no fluidity towards me. Like, so talk to me about a little bit about your
it's
thoughts.
so funny because my students say that, actually they call me Dr. O. Like, don't call me Dr. Williams, Dr. O, Ovita, that's totally fine. But I recently had a casual meeting, if you will, with a group of students that I work with, and it's a cross-racial group of students. But in particular, we had an evening where they were just like, Dr. O, just tell us about yourself. And I have to say that I was torn between sharing openly and or guarded or being guarded, and I think that comes from, again, what we learn in this profession is boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And I had a problem with that part of my professional education, because if we hold up too many of those boundaries, or we're too sort of rigid with those boundaries, then we don't get to see each other. We don't get to see the who and the what. And I shared openly. And after I shared openly, like my experience, like I'm sharing like today, even probably even deeper, they were so grateful, and then realized that for them, that they're okay, that their struggles, their challenges, being a parent, being a caregiver, all of what they're going through is okay, because this person who's got a doctor in front of their name went through the same kind of lived life experiences. So and I'm still working on that. I would say that for many, definitely in my teenage years, my 20s, 30s, I was definitely always always cautious and always aware of like, if I do this, what are people going to think? What are people going to think if I wear this? If I see this person, if I choose this, if what are people going to think? Like, I was in therapy for many years, and a lot of it was, I was so obsessed with not being fully, who I want to be, because I was really concerned about what my friends, family, coworkers would think or say. I'm still working on that. I'm still working on that a lot. Right. So even when preparing to talk to you today, I was like, Marie, what are we going to talk about? Because I'm like, how much am I going to share publicly now on this platform about myself and who I am and how I'm being or becoming, how I'm becoming. And more recently, there's so many parts of myself that I'm tapping into that I didn't even realize, that I had words for, that now I have some words for that I'm still processing. And I want to be able to be even more open than I have and really test those waters in terms of trusting that people will care and love you no matter what. But that's hard because we know how we may be our values and our prejudice, how they kind of take over sometimes. And people are going to say what they want to say, right? People are going to say what they want to say. At the end of the day, I'm going to have to live my life the way that I want to live my life, right?
See,
it may not be the way you want to, but, I can't continue to walk around feeling like I'm blocking myself from my gifts, from, the opportunities, because I'm so worried about how people are going to maybe say something. They're going to say something regardless if you do. They're going to still say something. So I'm trying.
well, I'm so happy that you're actually trying. It took me a while, but I think I'm there finally.
Great. Yeah.
Because so much out of me, it was like a huge distraction. I was in my head so much. Excuse my French. I had to shut that bitch up because she allowed me to feel and see things that wasn't even there. And like you said, folks are going to say whatever it is they want to say, regardless. And
Mhm.
folks, for the most part, they're always looking for something that's wrong to say about you. And going back to my original point, we are so judgmental as a society, as a nation, as a world. And we don't give folks enough opportunity to show up as themselves. Because, like you said, we don't process, we don't really stop to think. The rigidity, and also going back to that conditioning. We were conditioned to be and think and feel. The moment our parents, I use I statements. My parents found out I'm going to be a girl, a woman. They already set a pace for me.
Yeah.
There is roles that was assigned to me even before I was born. The
Yeah.
moment I'm born, you're supposed to just step right into it.
That's
But
right.
no, I had to push back. I don't sit well in a box because there's so much to us. When you were introducing yourself, you literally said, "Where should I start?" And
Yeah.
exactly, because we're
Yeah.
not just one person. Like it's so many. It's like we're like a building blocks, and it's so many parts to us that makes us whole. And that's why I use the analogy that we're fractured because we've been broken. So we have to
Yeah.
put ourselves back together.
Yeah.
So for me, once I was able to, and it took a lot because I had to learn who I was, self
Mhm.
discovery, and it's a process. I
Mhm.
had to learn to own and accept those ugly parts of me that I didn't want to accept.
Mhm.
But acceptance only, I believe, will come when you look at yourself in totality and you're okay with it because
Yeah.
it's you. Perfection does not exist.
No.
And we are entitled to make mistakes
Yeah.
because that's how we grow, that's how we learn. If we just got up every single day and we did everything the right way, I think that's boring.
And whose right way? Really?
Exactly.
Like whose right way? If we want to talk about the way that white supremacy has impacted us as Black women, right? Let's go there.
Let's go there.
That, the way in which we're supposed to show up is rooted in that, in the likeness of, right, whiteness. Um, I can't help but refer to the Supreme Court hearings right now for Ketanji Brown Jackson. And, I was in another meeting last week with Black women and we were processing. And I said, I actually didn't watch the hearings because I knew what would happen, right? That she would be questioned about
Yeah.
if she's good enough. So we are questioned as Black women all the time, whether it's verbally stated or, covertly stated or
Yes.
overtly stated. We know we're questioned about who we are and if we are, matching that ideal of what beauty is, of what success is, what education is, all of that. And that's an added um, I don't want to use the word burden. It's not burden. That's an added thing for us to
Added layer.
yeah, another layer for us to add to this um, this search for self, if you will, or this acceptance. I'll use your word acceptance of self is not fitting that ideal about who we are supposed to be as women. You talk about like being born. From the time that we're born, we're literally um, our gender role, right, and our gender expression gets laid out, right? Little dresses, little ponytails, little bows in the hair, all of that. How we are told to behave around men,
Ah,
right, the opposite sex, who we're supposed to be coupled with, and all this stuff that I've actually been um, moving through in different ways and pushing against in so many different ways, you know. Um, and I'm glad that I have, and I'm glad that I have been someone who's like, no, I'm not going to fit into the gender roles that no, I'm not going to be partnered with who you think I need to be partnered with. Yeah, no, I'm not going to fit into whatever this box is around what, society says we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to show up. Um, yeah.
I want to take you back to that moment when you were with your students and you sort of struggled about boundaries, like what should you share, what should you not share. Um, there's this familiar say in social work, especially group work, it's that participants will go as deep as you go. And I've
Mhm.
seen it played out so much because
Yeah.
what that does, it breaks the ice, and it's a part of building trust. If I'm showing up and I'm just not sharing pieces of me with you, um, how then should I expect you to be so open and to be vulnerable if I'm not going to be vulnerable? It's like that dance. It takes two to tango.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mean, and again, it goes back to all these societal rules and standards that we have to live by. It can be so challenging. But I also wanted to check in with you, like just have a little conversation about the imposter syndrome,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Black women.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like the term.
Okay.
I do not like the term imposter syndrome, because I think that if I kept telling myself in everything that I do, oh, that's imposter syndrome, or I'm behaving that way because I'm doubting myself because my standard is not at the standard that everyone else is. I kind of feel that I might feed into that and I might internalize that message. And so then it may limit me from really aspiring and doing what I know I can do, because I might be falling back on that. This might be controversial, as an excuse,
Crutch.
a crutch, right? A
Mhm.
crutch, an excuse. So I'll start with that. I'll start with the term to me feels like I might be putting everything in that basket and sort of blaming everything on this idea of what, fake it till you make it, right? Fake it till
Yes.
you make it, or faking it. Um, so and yes, absolutely, we do walk through thinking that we're not good enough, that we're not prepared enough, that we are somehow not ready enough. And I even now, where I am, I did not believe that I had a right to ask for a position at my institution as a faculty person. And I have a doctorate, and even then I was like, should I ask? Am I, I'm not at where the level other people are. And it almost took me, I could have remained exactly where I was if I allowed myself to keep listening to that bitch in my head, you said, to
Yeah.
that voice in my head. Like, I literally went through several iterations of, no, don't ask, don't push, don't, you're comfortable, you got a good job, stay where you are, blah 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 blah, maybe. And I was like, wait a second. First of all, other people, and when I say other people, white folks, have no problem negotiating, have no problem asking for what it is that they want, have no problem saying, yes, I now have a doctorate, therefore I can move into X, Y, and Z. Or I've had years of experience in this place and know that I'm qualified enough to do this. And I talked to a few mentors. I think that's important too. I just want to say that for me, having some mentors in my life who I can turn to and say, hey, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? Maybe it's checking in with myself. Interestingly, um, a number of the mentors in my life happen to be white women. So that's a whole nother discussion that I write about. And then I went back and I said, you know what? No, I am going to be clear about what I want and ask for what I want and see where it goes. What's the worst that's going to happen? No, Ovita, we can't do that right now. And actually, that did happen. I was like, okay, well, and to be able to go back and say, well, I'm still interested and I really would like to see how this can manifest, how this can happen. And pushing back on that imposter syndrome, if you will, and know that I've been 25 years, I've been a social worker, right? I've taught classes for like 15 years. I'm a consultant. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I went to school. I got a degree. How is it that I'm still saying to myself, I'm not capable, ready, or qualified? How is that? So it can be imposter syndrome that we use. It could be self-doubt. It could be fear as Black women, we're often the lowest on the totem pole, all of that. It could be my own personal stuff, right? Um, eh, all of that. And having the courage maybe to push against those sort of probably sometimes self-inflicted barriers that we sometimes create. I'm not saying they're not real. What I'm saying is that it's like the cognitive behavioral stuff. It's talking back at it. It's
Yes.
like like looking in the mirror and saying, no, today I'm gonna ask. Today I'm gonna send that email. Today I'm going to find a way to push through this. And the worst that can happen, you're not gonna die. Nobody's gonna harm you. You might get a no, you might get a maybe, you might get a yes. You might even get not right now, but down the road. That at
Exactly.
least is information that I have. And even if I get no, guess what, Marie? I have other options.
Exactly.
I have other options. I don't only have this option, whatever that is. I can go somewhere else. I can see someone else. I can pivot. During this pandemic, I mean, a lot of people like realize that, like my capabilities and the extent of my creativity, the extent of my you know, uh, my thinking goes beyond what we were doing before the pandemic. How incredible that it took a pandemic. It took a life-threatening disease for us to pause and say, huh, wait a second, I could write that book. I could, have my own cooking business. I could, reshape my apartment, whatever it is. I could, relocate to another part of the world and live. The possibilities, right, to push back against the imposter syndrome, or the way that we self doubt, and we sit in that self doubt, um, is incredible to see.
Wow. You're so right about everything that you just said just now. And it's just a courage.
Correct.
Courage, I believe, it's first having the ability to stand up to yourself. I think that's where it starts with
Mm-hmm.
self, because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes we don't know how to be honest with ourselves. And we kid ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
tell ourselves lie every single day. But once you have the courage to say, hey, I don't appreciate that you're using this as a pretext because you're a procrastinator and you had your 24 hours in your day and you decided to not be structured, not to manage your time. So we create excuses, right? Being
Mm-hmm.
able to have those conversation with yourself
Yeah.
and start shaping and creating the life that you actually want. I think
Right.
that's where it really all starts.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Going back to COVID and that pause
Mm-hmm.
that you talked about earlier about
Big pause.
processing, I think that's exactly what COVID did. COVID put us on pause and we had no choice. We were forced, for lack of a better word, we were forced to really look at our lives and
That's
to
right.
realize we have options.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what
Absolutely.
I did.
Powerful. Powerful.
And even, this great resignation, I don't like that term because I think what it's doing now, it's like really lumping all of the issues that's going on within the workforce itself. Um,
Okay. Yeah, like people saying the great resignation, like everybody's leaving. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and again, it's like going back to realizing that we have options. But I know, Avita, like we're getting closer to
Oh
the
my
end. And
gosh,
I
I
really
can't believe
want,
it.
I know we've just been talking. I
What?
wanted to get back to
Yeah.
Black women or just women in general.
Right.
There's so much violence against women. We see it all the time, whether it's the Asian community, the Black community, and especially now with COVID, like we've seen the rise of domestic violence, right? What suggestions or what recommendations from your professional perspective would you give to women who feel that they have to subject themselves to such treatments? What are your
I
thoughts around?
yeah, I with intimate partner violence, the thing that I think makes it so detrimental, not saying any other crime, but is that it's this intimate relationship between you and another person. It's not like I'm walking down the street and I'm attacked by a stranger.
Yeah.
I immediately want that person to go to jail, right? To be, I've been attacked by someone randomly. When it's someone that is close to me, someone that I have children with, home with, built a life with, go to the church with, all of what, like that intimate relationships makes it even more difficult for us to see through or see a way out, right? And I know that is something that we have, like, just think about any relationship we've been in where maybe it wasn't physical abuse, maybe it wasn't verbal abuse, maybe, but we knew that it wasn't good for us.
Yeah.
We didn't leave immediately, right?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, maybe things will change, maybe this person will finally get a job, I don't know. That we make, because we want, because of a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily feel that as women, and if you think about intimate partner violence, majority of people who are impacted are women. That stems from sexism, that stems from male patriarchy, that's the heteronormative culture that we live in, is all of that. So I won't even go into a whole class lesson on that. I wouldn't say that we subject ourselves to that and that it's somehow something about us as women. What I will say, a couple of things, but I think maybe one of the things that I will say right now is that we need to have intimate partner violence, domestic violence, be something that we all are concerned about, that we all are speaking up about, right? And not continue to treat it as a silent, quiet, keep it behind closed doors issue, right? If we can talk about, drunk driving and have mad, if we can talk about, climate change, if we could talk about all of these, if we can, then we need to make the focus of healthy relationships a priority and not take any stand for abuse, take a stand against any form of abuse. So there's that. I just want to say, larger perspective, it's all of our problem, not just the person or the family going through whatever, is happening. There's that. And then I think for the self part of it, that you're not alone, right? Often we feel when we're in relationships where it is unhealthy, where there is, that you're not alone, right? And that there are options. There are ways to seek help or support. I don't at all ask the question, why doesn't she leave? That's not fair. That is absolutely not fair. It should be, why does the other person abuse? Why does the other person commit acts of violence in that way? And I just want to just add that another thing that I've grown to sort of expand myself in terms of myself as a social worker is that other person is a person too. and does have trauma and does have a life and does have feelings and does have emotions, right? And we often don't have care for that person who's the person who may be committing harm. And that's an important piece as well. As women, you know, as women, we can take care of each other. We can hold each other up high. We can ask questions like, you know, do you need support? I'm here for you, rather than leaving, right? Because often we leave. We're like, oh my God, this person is still hanging out with you know, I'm out of here, right? Stay with it. Stay with each other, because we need to lean on each other. We need to have each other. And on the opposite side of it, that if we don't look at, you know, the way in which sexism and genderism and heteronormative culture lives and breathes around us, then we're never going to address intimate partner violence in the way that we need to address it. If we still have these standards and worldviews about all of that, right? So there's a lot of work we need to do as a society, and a lot of work that we can do as women in our own communities to band together, hold each other together, and lean on each other.
Wow, that is powerful. With like a minute and a few seconds to go, what final thoughts would you like to share before we wrap this up really quickly?
I didn't know at all what this conversation would be, but I think it's been very empowering for me. And I hope for anyone listening that you're trying to figure out like what your next steps are, and moving into the next decade of your life. It gets better once we open ourselves up to the possibilities, to who and what we are continuing to become. There isn't a final end or a final stage. It's like we're continuing to live in our truth, in our beauty, and who we are meant to be. So I hope to keep learning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence on the Bold Show. It was such a pleasure to have this really relaxed and informative conversation. And to our viewers, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Just remember, just be open. Let your wings go and just fly wherever you want to. You shouldn't sit well in a box. It's not becoming. Have an amazing rest of the evening and week on purpose. Thank you all. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Bye now.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.